You see, it's interesting that the thing that might be holding you back the most is just a belief. And that is something that is so powerful because when we think about the different things that are happening in our lives, how many of them really come to fruition in terms of things that are really scaring us and holding us back? And how many of them are don't? How many of them just fall through the cracks? But yet we got so emotional, we got so ridden about a specific thing that was going to happen. And where I find this the most is when it comes to for me, sports, when I'm playing a specific game and I'm playing in the game or before the game, honestly, I'm starting to think about all the possibilities. And I'm the type of guy that I'm trying to strategize beforehand, especially not just because I'm the captain of my team, but I'm constantly trying to think, hey, if I take this guy, then that person has to take that guy. And we're trying to just figure out, okay, if they're winning, that what's going to happen if I'm winning? What is it should we do? What should be the strategy? I'm always constantly thinking about different strategies. But what's interesting about that is that we have the ability to really be able to focus one way or the other. If you think about it, when somebody gets onto a court and they're constantly focused on the positives that are going out, somebody else gets on the court and they're focusing on all the negatives that could go on, who do you think has a better shot from the beginning? Of course, the person who has a more positive outlook. So the question is like, why aren't more people doing that? And you might say, well, the person who's being more negative has the ability to foresee the future of things that could go wrong. You're right. But when things do go wrong, then they're going to be like, I told you so. And then they're only going to bring down the negativity. And that's something that most people don't want in their lives, as opposed to somebody who's positive and they go through something negative. So they're just going to let it go and they're going to continue moving forward. For example, if you stub your toe, so depending, it always hurts, but if depending on your mood, it could break everything for the rest of your day. And it could be the straw that breaks your camel's back, or it could just be like, ow, that really hurt. I got to move on. And that is something that we have to start to figure out is with our own lives. What is it that we're going to do? How is it that we're going to break free from these beliefs that we have that are just made up in the first place and be able to allow them to not affect us negatively and possibly use them and utilize them in the positive sense? And I think that is something that is so powerful when it comes to whatever it is that we want to be doing. So if you want to become successful in a specific field, we have to start thinking in a more optimistic way. And this is one of the things, like everything's positive. No, optimistic means we need to be recognizing that there are dangers, but also focusing on the positive. And I think that is something that is very, very possible for all of us to attain. Some of us, it might be a little bit more difficult because we're more negative in nature. We've been burnt in the past, or we've been around negative people. Otherwise, there are a lot of people who, we can actually do more. We could be doing bigger things. And I think that is something that can be really, really powerful when it comes to the work that we want to be doing. So ask yourself, how is it that I could start to look a little bit more positively to the situation that I'm in, give it a little bit more light? So when things do go negative, because guess what? They will, then we have the ability to be able to focus and really gain the expertise and the direction that we want to be going in. Because once we have that ability, then it's there's no game over because they're constantly looking to move forward. It's like, for example, like when you're playing like a board game and it's like something goes wrong or not in your favor. So if you focused and you're just so sad about that one thing that happened 5 turns ago, so you're not playing the game anymore, you're not being able to move forward. And the same thing happens with life, and so many people get so caught up and so stuck with what happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And then when they're 80, like if you would ask them, like, when you're 80, are you going to still be blaming your fifth grade teacher? And they probably are going to, hopefully they're going to say no, but most likely they're going to still be blaming that because they never had the opportunity. And the question is when are we going to start to take responsibility? And this is one of those things that I speak to my young adults about. Because one of the biggest things that they get is that they start to blame their parents or their schools or their friends or whatever it might be. And at a certain point, they need to take responsibility. They need to say, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what happened to me in the past. I could live in my past and I could start to say that all these excuses, and maybe the really legit excuses, are the reason why I'm the way I am. But guess what? If I want to live a better life, I don't want my past to affect me. I do not want to be driving my car backwards through the rear view mirror or looking through that little mirror. I'd rather drive forward and be able to look through my whole windshield. And that is something that can be extremely powerful. And there's this one woman I know who literally did that. She grew up and she had not a great life, right? There was death in the family, extremely poor, like literally everything you can imagine went wrong. And she and her brother had to go through a situation and they had to figure things out. And guess what? Her brother wasn't able to handle it. Her brother lived in the past. Her brother, growing up throughout their career, marriage, whatever, kids, was always so negative and so bitter about everything that happened. And this one woman said, I don't want my past to affect my future. I'm going to change that. And she changed it. And she brought so much more positivity and light into her life. And you can see, based on the way her life went, things turned out so much better. And for so many of us, we're constantly focusing on the past because it makes us feel good. It feels, it feels good that we have a valid excuse. But that's not going to change anything. That's not going to move us forward. That's not going to help us attain our goals. So we need to start to ask ourselves, what is it we're going to do? How is it we can start to shift? How is it we can start to make these things happen a little bit differently? Because I want to be able to live the life that I want to live. And for so many people, they have these beliefs that they've been living or believing for so long, decades, because somebody taught them something or told them something. There's a big thing in education now, how we don't label children. You don't say, oh, you're a math person, or you're smart, or you're very silly, whatever it is, right? And the whole idea is that we don't want this kid to now think that they are only that one person. They're limited to only math, and they're not an English person. And I had this limiting belief. Growing up, I was more of a math guy, and I wasn't an English guy. And guess what? My grades showed that I wasn't an English person, and I didn't do well on my tests, on my essays. The essays were the worst for me. But then guess what? I got older, and I'm like, you know what? I got to beat this limiting belief. And you know what? It was pretty cool. I actually wrote a book. Right? I wrote a book, and I was like, wait a second. How am I supposed to write a book if I'm the person who can't write, who always failed by my essays, who had a million tutors, who still never understood it or got it? And that was something that was such a powerful moment for me, because I realized it was just a belief. There's certain things that I needed help with, and I was able to get an editor. I was able to get other people to support me on this journey, but it doesn't mean I can't be a writer. So ask yourself, what beliefs are you thinking? What is holding you back? What one shift that you can have can switch everything for you? And a lot of it happens to be around money, because people have this feeling towards money, or I'd say this belief towards money, that money is bad and money is all these things to it. And therefore, they hold themselves back. They don't even realize it, but they're really sabotaging themselves in order to become successful. Other people, it's about their work-life balance. They're so scared about the work-life balance that they end up focusing so much on the life aspect, and they don't do the work aspect. But there's this balance, a healthy balance, that you can do actually both of them. And there might be seasons in somebody's life that you might be doing both of them. And that is something that we need to start to figure out for ourselves. So instead of having this belief that it needs to be one way or the other, let's get both. Let's do both. Who says it has to be? Why can't we just have our life and our work? Why can't we just be doing both? Then that is something that comes powerfully with the work that we're trying to do. So ask yourself, what is it that you want to be doing? How is it that I can put myself in a situation to be able to start to really understand myself in order that I can start to achieve what it is I want to be achieving? And then you have the ability to be able to really make things happen. Then you have the ability to not be held back. You don't have to be the one to hold yourself back. There are already so many other things out there that are holding you back. The belief that if you go over to somebody new and you're just want to introduce yourself or network with them, that they're going to say something, they're going to think you're weird. That's just not true. Most people, 95% of people, are going to be just nice to you back. And if they don't want to talk to you, they'll probably excuse themselves. Okay, great. But then the 10 times that you do it and it makes sense, guess what? You've built that community that you're looking to build, that network that you're trying to really expand. I think for so many of us, we get in our heads because of past experiences. And there's a client of mine who's dealing with somebody recently, and one of the things that she's going with through this other coach that I'm working with is that her client is very insecure when it comes to making friends. They're scared to go out there and scared to get themselves to meet other people. And she was asking me, what advice would I give this client of hers? And I made a whole different podcast about why I didn't give her the answer. But if I was going to give her the answer, so maybe she doesn't listen to this podcast, but even if she listens to it, I'll be happy. But the answer that I was going to give is that I would challenge her about why it's so hard for her to make friends. Because she has this belief that she is going to do certain things, that she already had reached out to people. But I would challenge that, how did you reach out? What did you do? How did they reject you? because many times it's just maybe our own specific view on it. Maybe they didn't reject you. Maybe you didn't really reach out as like somebody who should be reaching out when it comes to making friends. So we have to try to figure out is like, what is it that we're going to be doing? And if we can start to figure out, that could be something that could be really, really powerful when it comes to the work that we want to be doing. So first of all, ask ourselves, what is it that we can start to do? How is it that we can put ourselves in position to really make the beliefs that we're thinking just false? Because the crazy part about the beliefs is that we might have a belief in one direction, but we can also make the belief in the other direction. So let's say this client that I'm working with, her my client's client, right? So let's say they had this belief that like they could be friends with everybody. You're not think it would give them a better advantage to be making friends? That person would be more outgoing. Of course they would be. And we need to start to figure this stuff out. Like, what is it that we are looking to do? How is it we're going to get ourselves in a situation where we can start to move forward? And that could be something that could be really, really powerful. So what are the beliefs that are holding you back? What are the things that you're assuming? Very technical right here, okay? If you're not sure what beliefs that you need to be working on is, what are the things that you are assuming right now in life? Like, what are the things that you're assuming right now in your business? What are the things you're assuming now in your relationships? Because we all know what happens when you assume, right? But ask yourself, what are those beliefs that I'm having? Why do I have this belief that I have to build my business this way? If you didn't have that way, which way would you do it? If you didn't have that one connection, which other direction would you go? Open that horizon up for yourself. Open that pathway up. Because once you start to see that there's more than one way to do it, then guess what? You start to take advantage of that. And I talk about my program that I one time started, one of my coaching programs. I was trying to start a program, and I had this one direction that I wanted to be able to market my program. And for me, this was like the only way I can market my program. It was going to get hundreds of people to sign up and everything like that. I spent a couple $1,000 on marketing my program this way, and only one person reached out to me, and it was only because they wanted me to market in their specific newspaper. It wasn't even somebody about my program, and I was totally lost. I was done. I was so upset. I was like still waiting, maybe somebody reach out, this and that. Nobody. And afterwards, I was so frustrated, and I'm like, wait a second. This is what hard means. This is like that wall that pops up right in front of you right before you're about to get to the room. And you're like, wait, the wall just closed in on me. How am I supposed to get out of here now? And I think that is something that for so many of us, we look to take advantage of. We look to be able to move forward. We look to get directional, and we don't realize, hey, you know what? There's certain beliefs that are holding us back. Because let's say you were really able to create a $1 million company. What would that be if you really believed it? How would that be? If you were able to go to a networking event and you were able to just meet like 300 people at the networking event and get cards and numbers and all that good stuff. Like, what happens if you had that belief? And I think that will give you the advantage. And if we can start to do that, that could be something that could be powerful. So now that we have the belief that we want, so we're picturing the belief. So whether it's I can't get myself to put myself out there, or I can't grow my company, or I can't do sales, like all these beliefs that people have around themselves. Now ask yourself this question. What if it wasn't like that? What if it wasn't like that? How can we shift it differently? How can we get curious to say, hey, you know what? Instead of me being a very shy person, how can I be a more outgoing person? How can I go from somebody who is terrible at sales to somebody who's great at sales? How can I go from somebody who has a small business and I'm trying to struggle month to month and trying to make, people to come even just look at me, versus somebody who people are knocking at my door to come just ask me questions because they know I'm the expert in the specific field. And these are the things we could start to do, because once you start to think in that light, you start to open up so many more doors. You have so many more opportunities to be able to see the direction that you want to go in. And that is something that can be so changing in your life, in your business, in your relationships, in your health, because we have these beliefs. How many people have a belief? I've been on a million diets. Diets don't work for me. Like, we've all been there before. You know what I'm saying? And what we have to try to figure out for ourselves is that true? Maybe I just didn't find the right diet. I went on 3 dates and it didn't work out for me. But maybe I didn't find the right person. Like, it's like you put it, like, I don't like this type of food, so I'm not going to eat anymore. It's like, no, you just keep trying until you find food that you like. And that is something that I think so many people give up so early on themselves. And they start to believe it even deeper and deeper and deeper because they think they took the action. I did sales. Yeah. How many sales people did you call? I called 3 people and nobody picked up. And it's like 3 people and like you're complaining that you don't know how to do sales. Like, give me a break. We want to be able to do certain things in our lives. We have to take advantage of that. And guess what? It's on us to be able to move forward and to take the realistic expectation of what is necessary. So if you're in sales and you're making 3 calls a day, you know that's a joke. I made 300 calls today. I made 100 calls today. And only 20 people picked up. And out of the 20 people, only 2 people were even possibly interested. Now we're talking. Now we can start to figure out, okay, what is it we can do differently? How can we strategize around this? And it's just a mindset. It's really just a shift that we need to start to make. And I think so many people, unfortunately, struggle with this. I think everybody struggles with this. And we have our certain beliefs because we like to see the world the way it is. But sometimes it's good to get just a little bit of a shift. So if you're going through something, if you're getting blocked in one specific area, ask yourself, what are you assuming right now that doesn't have to be the proper assumption? What could be a little bit different? And maybe if it was different, it could change everything. I think if we start to ask ourselves these questions, then I really believe things could really start to shift. It's so much for our own personal lives. Let me know if you have any questions. And if you want to reach out, feel free to do so down below.